I think, you just set the tone for our conversation, the nature as its biggest artist, surrounding us. Mm-hmm. If we look out in nature and we see what nature creates, it's the ultimate form of art. Mm-hmm. And you taking nature to a next level in your beautiful flower arrangements, which I enjoy. Mm. And, we are, we just had an exhibition where you showcased not only, your beautiful flower art, but also, art which was very much inspired by, plants, by flowers, by nature. And you called this exhibition Ikigai. And now, kind of like looping that in our conversations we had before, we talked a lot about Ikigai. And, Ikigai as the Japanese term for the reason of being. Basically meaning you're, discovering your talents, you're discovering your passions, and you turn them into skills and put it into service for others. And that was
very well said.
Yeah, seriously. That was the name of your exhibition. And so maybe tell me a little bit more about your Ikigai.
Yeah. I have multiple kind of definitions for the way that I'm living my life when I refer to Ikigai. Some of them being tangible creations using the materials that, are around me, whether they be repurposing old materials that I find in this urban environment that we live in, but obviously more importantly or inspiringly, if that's a word or the right way to say it, natural elements. Mm-hmm. So yeah, the art show was called Ikigai, and the way that came about was interesting in its own right, because that wasn't the first name that I had for it, but definitely felt like the right name for the show by the time it kind of came to fruition. And I think that so creatively and productively and tangibly, my Ikigai is to create with nature, create with the elements. These were elemental sculptures. I was manipulating and channeling the energy and the inspiration that comes from the 4 elements, or even 5, earth, wind, fire, water, and the ether, the space between. Maybe I could even say the Tao. But that was what the show was tangibly. So my Ikigai, I believe, is kind of manipulating these materials, using the lessons and the knowledge and the experience that I have. A lot comes from flower arranging and understanding, and having examined and got very intimate with stems and flowers and just the way that I believe that flowers specifically are the only thing in this life that is perfect. And that's not true of every flower.
That is a very interesting thing that you say that, yeah.
Well, there's that Fibonacci spiral, I guess, that's a mathematical equation that I couldn't possibly pretend to understand entirely, but I do know that essentially it's this constant and consistent growing spiral. And so when I look at a flower, if it hasn't been disturbed by man, which most of the flowers that I get my hands on have been, because they've been cut and they've been, shipped often and such. But if they haven't, their perfection is, undeniable. Mm-hmm. Their symmetry and it's beautiful. Mm-hmm. So the Ikigai of my creative sort of life is working with these elements and taking the lessons that I learned from nature, compositionally and otherwise, and putting that into a sculpture. Depending on the materials, depends on the sculpture, the composition and such. And then I think my Ikigai as a spiritual being is to live in harmony with nature, to, sort of use this experience as an artist to be in a flow with life's experience and letting it kind of dictate the next step, and it's a pretty moment to moment experience. Maybe that will change as more responsibilities come my way, or you know, maybe more demand or something or other, where I have to start making choices and really being like highly intentional. But maybe I'll never let that happen because it's too good the way it is.